The officially licensed Lord of the Rings Middle-earth Premium Silver Foil is available now exclusively from New Zealand Mint, and is a must-have for all Lord of the Rings collectors and those who love a little bit of movie memorabilia like myself. Housed in its own Perspex case, it's super easy to display in your own collection. Constructed with 35 grams of fine silver, this gorgeous piece is guaranteed legal tender under authority of New A. Limited strictly to 2,000 units, make sure to grab yours now.
Eat my shorts.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Dave Lee Down Under podcast. I don't know what's going on, I've just hit the laughing button right there, that wasn't supposed to happen. Welcome to the Dave Lee Down Under podcast. This is, of course, episode 15. I can't believe it, I've made it 15 weeks without getting cancelled, which is beautiful. Of course, you can join me every single Monday here on the podcast. It goes out on all podcasting platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Audible. The visual element also goes out on YouTube at the same time, but if you are a patron supporter, you can get it 2-day early access on the Saturday. So if you'd like to support me over there, patreon.com/Dave Lee Down Under. You can find me on YouTube at Dave Lee Down Under and on Twitter and Instagram and all that kind of stuff. All linked down the bottom, so you just click right through, and you know the beauty of technology these days, eh? If you want to write into the show, you can shoot an email to daveleepod@gmail.com. If you are listening on podcasting platforms, getting a little tongue-tied, you can shoot an email. No, you can't shoot an email. You can leave a review. I'm very excited today, guys, because I'm just very excited because I've got my very first special guest joining me on the show, and these are two guys whose work I admire so much. I love these guys. These are two... I'm going to let them introduce themselves, but these are two guys that I have wanted to collaborate with for a very, very long time. It is, of course, Cris Parker from 3C Films and Austin Burke. Thank you for joining me, guys.
No, thank you for having us, Dave. I was really excited when you told me, man. You got some great people on your podcast. You've interviewed a lot of great celebrities that I'm jealous of. Yes. So I was happy to be joined on that list.
Amazing. Thank you.
I consider myself a bit of a Dave Lee fanboy, so this is pretty cool, Dave. I love being here, man, and I've always wanted to collab with you. Yeah. I see enough of 3C all the time, so it's nice to be here with with both of you guys today, man. I love your channels.
Thank you very much. Now, this has been an insane week of news on the movie front, and I just thought, well, actually, it kind of just didn't really happen like it. It wasn't really planned because I thought, you know, this HBO MAX thing kind of launched last week. I recorded the podcast last Thursday. I usually record on a Friday. Had I recorded on the Thursday, I would have caught the HBO MAX news, but I recorded a day early, so I missed it. And I thought, you know what? This is crazy news. I have to get these two guys on because I can't think of anyone better to chat this insane...
And it's only gotten crazier since then.
Exactly right. And it was like, I messaged you 2 days later, I was like, hang on guys, there's like this big Disney investor meeting in on the day we're supposed to record because we're going to record yesterday. And I thought, you know what, let's push it back a day because I think it's going to be some big stuff. And even in between all that, this week's been insane.
Oh yeah. So much stuff going on, so much drama, so fast the movie industry has changed in a matter of just like 2 weeks.
Like I keep saying here, I've been doing this for 15 weeks, and the way that the cinematic landscape has changed in this short 15-week period that I've been doing this podcast alone is insane.
Yeah.
My question is this the biggest movie-related week of the year so far? I know we're already at the end of 2020, but from the news to the HBO Max confirmation to Warner Brothers Slate, we don't know where it's at right now. This has to be the biggest week of the year in terms of news because everything's different.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's like we're winding up to Christmas. I was thinking, you know, we're winding down. It's going to be all right. We can take a breather. This has just come out of nowhere, and I think everyone is just trying to catch each other's tails at the moment.
Exactly.
Now, before we get into the news, you guys just introduce yourselves. If there's people out there, I mean, if there's people watching this channel, I'm sure they know who you are. But just in case, if there's people out there listening to the podcast or anything, don't know who these guys are, just give yourselves a little introduction, where we can find you, what you do, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, you guys know my name is Chris at 3C Films. I just like to do little movie news updates here and there on some of the things I find most exciting stuff. So I don't usually talk a lot of Star Wars or anything like that. I try to stick to what I'm knowledgeable in, like Spider-Man, Marvel, or even some nostalgic things. I know sometimes Dave and I, we end up making the same thing. Like we talk about Space Jam and whatnot. So I always love seeing your updates and seeing your opinion on that.
Well, I have collabed with Chris countless times. 3C Film is my boy. But like I said earlier, Dave, I'm just a big fan of what you do. I am Austin Burke. You can find me on YouTube. I try to review as many things as I possibly can.
This dude is insane.
You're a busy man.
I'm a crazy person, man. From series to movies, I try to watch as much as I can. But lately, with all of this news and craziness, I've been talking a lot of Marvel and Star Wars. So I'm prepped and primed for today's show. And I'm excited to get into my favorite time of the year, Christmas, where we recap the year. We're getting into Oscar season, which I cover on my channel. Combined with all this comic book goodness, man, it's just a good time to be a movie fan right now.
Oh,
you bring up a good point there, Austin. I mean, it's the end of the year. It's where we wrap up. It's where we look at the year as a whole, the movie industry. Like, oh, what movies excited us? And like, it's a very short list. And we can't even get too excited about what comes next year because even that's uncertainty. Usually around this time, we would probably making our most anticipated list or our top 10 most looking forward to movies. I don't see a point in doing that when my last year's list is basically non-existent.
Yeah. I mean, I planned, and I'm sure you guys are the same, we have to plan our content out so far in advance, up to a year in advance, like, all right, we're going to be doing this on this date, whatever. I had to throw all of that away this year because it's been insane. It's like, oh, this movie was, the beginning of the pandemic was like, this movie's delayed. Okay, well, I'll cross that off. This movie's delayed, cross that off. And then it just got to the point where you're like, and, I have to throw it all away. It's just absolutely insane. And this week, particularly everything that's coming out now, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Not only by the amount of information that's coming at me, but I'm feeling like I have to watch all this stuff. This is the amount of content that I'm going to have to consume.
I feel stressed for Austin, man, because he really does watch all this stuff. And I'm already so behind on everything. And that's with a year where we barely had any theatrical releases right there. I'm realizing I only saw the newest stuff because it was in theaters and I was invited to press screenings. Without that, it's hard to keep track of all these digital movies coming out and what to watch and what not to watch.
Yeah. But that's
I'm going to have to call up Dwayne Johnson and figure out how he clones himself for all these movies. Because with all of the films, I think I saw Sean Chandler tweeted out recently, after March, I think there are 2 to 3 blockbusters every other week for that 4-month span. How are we going to do that, guys? I don't know. I don't know how to plan it. We know not all of those are going to stick. So how do we prep for this? It's just it's tough. What we do is tough right now.
Oh, exactly right. It's fun, but that's part of the fun of it, though. It really isn't. It's just like I'm so stressed out, but I love it. I love doing this. I don't know. I find it for me anyway. Is that I find this. I mean, we all. We've been doing this for years, and you slowly find your groove. You find the stuff that works for you, the stuff that doesn't work for you, and you just focus on the stuff that does work for me, for you. And for me, it's been this animation stuff has just like blown up. So I have to focus on that. Yesterday at the Disney thing, Marvel news, Star Wars news. I'm like, I want to cover this, but there's so many people who cover it better than me. So I'm like, stick to what you know and do that. Watch the other stuff, watch the Star Wars stuff, and just enjoy it without having to cover it so intensely. But it's really, really crazy. Now, before we get into it all, usually we would talk about, what I've watched for the week and just talk about some stuff that's happened during the week, general stories. Again, so much news. We're going to skip that segment entirely this week. We're just going to dive straight into it. I do have to give a couple of sponsor plugs or else they will be annoyed with me. So we're going to do that. Of course, the New Zealand Mint have just launched their range of Lord of the Rings collectibles, their very first collectible, which is the Lord of the Rings premium foil, which is this gorgeous, it's essentially like a big note. It's like $2 worth. No, it's a legal tender. You can pay. It doesn't cost $2. It costs a bit more than that, but it is a legal tender. You can use it to buy anything for $2 New Zealand. But it is fantastic. And you can head to nzmint.com to check that out. They do DC stuff. They do Star Wars stuff, Harry Potter, all that. So go and check out the nzmint.com. Of course, kicks.com.au have also just launched a bunch of new sales. They're doing their Kicksmas sales. Some great deals on 4K discs. There's some 4K bundles on there. Spider-Man bundle, a war bundle, Transformers, sci-fi, horror, a bestsellers bundle, which has got 1917, Knives Out, Bad Boys for Life, Bloodshot, Jumanji. There's a bunch of 2 for 4Ks in there with a range of 150 titles. So go and check them out. And that's the plugs done. So let's get on to the news. Let's start with HBO Max because this is where it all started. This is why I initially wanted to get you guys on, and this is probably the biggest piece of news in memory. I was going to say this year, but I mean, this is one of the most unprecedented things that has ever happened in cinema.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if you remember like the moments leading up to this announcement. Everyone was gearing people up. It's like the movie news industry is about to change. Things about to go down, and they were not kidding right here. I could not believe this announcement right here and them wanting to do that, and even the aftermath, which I'm sure we're going to get into, of all the stuff we're finding out that's in this deal that maybe they didn't go ahead and let everybody know on this list, but just still the thought that whenever Godzilla versus Kong or Tom and Jerry comes out, us will probably want to maybe see it in the theater if you feel up for that or if you can, and then you could come home and watch that exact same movie again. Like that blows my mind. And I always think, I know streaming services cost, but like since it's a monthly thing, I consider it free if it just shows up at my accessibility there. And that's how I feel about whenever I get a new movie on streaming. It's essentially free because it's just right there to watch at any time. So I don't know if this will actually go past this year. I'm surprised they also didn't wait till after Wonder Woman with how that went, because I thought that would be their little guinea pig test market. But I don't know. Austin, how did you feel about this?
Yeah, that's the thing, is I thought this news would come after Wonder Woman, because you would think they would want to see how it plays out. And I know we had Mulan way back when, but that's the Premier Access route, which we see Disney is going to try again for Raya and the Last Dragon, coming out on Disney Plus and in theaters with Premier Access. But for what HBO Max is doing, and I mentioned this a couple days ago, this is going to change the theatrical landscape as we know it. And I look at something like Netflix, and that's kind of the focus of what my channel has been about, is you focus on streaming, but it all started with their model, right? We're going to not only bring other things to our platform, we're going to start releasing original films and original series. And you see the numbers that draws in. And I'm sure some of these other studios over the last couple of years have been like, man, I mean, HBO Max comes out, we're going to start doing maybe original movies there. But when you start getting these tentpole blockbusters, you talk about the eyes that's going to bring to your platform. So I'm interested to see what the growth for HBO Max is going to be prior and post announcement, and whether or not it gets shifted, just to see where that goes from here. And if they continue to implement that even after the pandemic, that's my big question. So where does it go from here?
I mean, I've spoken about this on the channel multiple times. I'm sure my listeners are probably getting really tired of me bringing this up. But I saw Jeffrey Katzenberg give us a talk 6 years ago. And he was asked, of course, the ex-CEO of Disney and, founder of DreamWorks. Sorry, not CEO of Disney. He ran the studio department. And he gave a talk here in Melbourne 6 years ago. And someone asked him, where do you see the future of cinema in 10 years' time? And his prediction wasn't really a prediction, because, he's one of the big hotshots in Hollywood pulling the strings, was in 10 years' time, you'll have a movie go to the cinemas and it will almost land day and date at your home, and you'll watch it on your phone. You'll watch it on a screen, and you'll pay more depending on what size you're watching it on and everything. I'm thinking, this is before streaming was even really a big thing. I'm thinking, how on earth are they going to like shoot in the brand new blockbuster to your screens? Here we are, nearly 10 years later, and it's happened. And this is what Bob Chapek said. The current Disney CEO said, this has been the plan, but the pandemic just kind of expedited those plans. Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
No, go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
Well, when Warner Brothers says, again, we sort of kind of brushed over it. If anyone's kind of out of the loop, I'm sure no one is, but Warner Brothers have announced, or HBO Max announced, that the entirety of the 2021 slate from Warner Brothers is going to HBO Max next year. This affects movies like Suicide Squad, Matrix 4, Dune, Godzilla vs. Kong, Space Jam: A New Legacy, Judas and the Black Messiah, Tom and Jerry, Mortal Kombat, Conjuring, Devil Made Me Do It, and so many others. And Warner Brothers are saying, these are just pandemic-only rules. This won't be permanent.
Yeah, right.
But the article that announced this kind of made that mention, which was, once you start dismantling a system, can you put that system back together? And knowing what I heard from Jeffrey Katzenberg 6 years ago, that this was going to be the plan all along, I don't believe it. I don't believe that we're going to go back to a traditional model after this. And I think the only thing that might change that is if this is like a complete flop for them. But let's be honest, the general audience loves this model. The general audience loves to sit at home. They want to get their movie for free. When Disney tried to charge $30 for Mulan on the streaming service, they went, I'm not paying $30 to go and see a movie. I'm thinking, hang on a minute. You would have gone to a cinema and paid more than that. Couple of people, you see the movie, you get your popcorn, you get your drinks and everything. All of a sudden, people are used to getting, as you said, Chris, stuff for free.
Yeah, basically. But like so many things with that too. It's like they could have really stuck the middle finger up to Disney with why not even just like a $5 premium charge or a $10 premium charge. Can you and I think even the theaters would have been a little happy with that, because then there's this extra wall that audience members have to make a decision of like, okay, do I want to spend the 10 now, or I could go spend the 10 at a theater and get the experience and the full effect. Like I think that would have been something, because it's essentially free, and there's not even just a $5 charge I think would have made such a difference and could have earned some money back to these movies that are kind of worried that they're not going to earn their budget backs or all these back end deals that they're getting. Along with that, you're also right. It's like us in the movie industry who talk about movies, who are all obsessed with this. We're kind of hesitant on this model. We are not feeling it, but the general audience is my mother, my father, who don't really care. They love this. So like, it's interesting to us that we care so much about Warner Brothers and them getting the money they deserve. It's like, we're not seeing a cent to that or anything.
No,
but
exactly.
You're right in that article where they were saying in like 10 years time, this was supposed to be the plan. But I think only streaming services like Netflix and now Disney can uphold that model, where if you just do the basic math of how many subscribers they have to how much they're paying per month, they're earning a boatload of money right there. That I'm also worried we're going to a time now where we won't have movies like The Joker, where that movie Warner Brothers thought was going to fail. They gave it a low budget on purpose. They had no faith in it, didn't even want to do that much marketing on it. $1 billion. Success stories like that won't be happening anymore, because every movie is built in with an already pre-established, we make it for this much and we're already guaranteed to make this much money. No, gambling where you hit the jackpot of like, oh, that was $1 billion movie, or that movie was a loss. Now it's just every movie will kind of make the same amount.
Yeah. And it's just...
I am obsessed with box office.
Yeah.
I love looking at box office numbers and filtering that information. Okay, what's going to happen this upcoming week? Making my predictions. Where do we go from here, right? When it comes to a movie being successful at the box office, especially Warner Brothers this year and maybe other studios following suit, what constitutes success, right? Because we know they're bringing in money for the platform. Is HBO Max, are they going to release these numbers for us to see, for those that really want to know the analytics of what these films are bringing in, how many eyes are watching them, whether it counts as a view for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, the Netflix model, it's a bit up in the air. So I want to see all of these things implemented almost immediately. I just want to know how these movies are performing, whether they're successful or not, because I think that's very important for what we do. And Chris, you brought it up a little bit earlier. I'm very worried for the future of theaters because obviously with the Warner Brothers films, that's going to keep a lot of the general audience from going to the theater. And so these chains, especially the struggling chains like an AMC, like a Regal, they're going to really struggle down the line. And if more studios follow suit, like I have a feeling Disney may eventually, they're going to test the waters this year, then we're going to be in big trouble. And Dave, you mentioned that prediction, pandemic kind of speeding up that process. We're here. We're here. This is it, man. That was the announcement for me that just did it.
Yeah, me too. From the beginning, I thought this just sounds... 6 years I've been thinking this is going to happen, and just watching how streaming's like slowly taking over, I'm thinking that's going to happen. This is going to happen. And then this year it's been like, no, damn it, it's here. It's happened. It's here. And like 4 years off when it was supposed to. It's the interesting thing is though that these movies will release in cinemas that are open, that are safe to go to, particularly over in the States where the pandemic is still very much a huge thing. Internationally, they're opening wide in theaters. Again, places where are safe. The UK cinemas are still closed. Here in Australia, we're doing okay at the moment, so they will all open to cinemas here. Yeah.
Just kidding.
I don't know, because we don't have HBO Max yet, but I feel like when it does
You guys
launch
don't
here,
have an alternative either? Like,
no,
it's named something else over there?
We've got we've got a couple of local streaming services. The one called Stan, one called Binge, and they sort of pick up loose ends.
The Warner
from,
Brothers
like,
movies, or
they pick up Warner Brothers stuff, they pick up Hulu stuff, and just sort of buy out licenses. But I feel like HBO Max is probably going to roll out here at some point, and when that happens, this whole you are going to get these movies theatrically. I think I don't know. It's so unpredictable.
Even just that, because to me, if a bowling, well, at least in the States here, I don't know about Australia, but if a bowling alley, a skating ring, places like that are still open here, I don't see movie theaters being completely shut down in sort of like a blockbuster method where they just vanish. I do think it'll become a novelty thing or a niche thing where instead of like there's 10 in my city, it'll go down to 2 or maybe even just 1 theater per big populace right there. And that's kind of sad. And it makes you wonder, what kind of movies will even want to do that? Because to a certain point, it does cost studios to put these movies in theaters.
Yep.
So what happens if they just don't want to even put them in theaters anymore and spend that extra change? Then, theaters are just left with putting indie releases or local releases if anybody wants to watch that, which I highly doubt.
Yeah. Well, those movies don't do well, do they? That's why they're not. That's why studios don't invest in that kind of stuff very much because they just don't do well. So it just opens up so many questions about how's this going to affect the longevity of cinemas even staying open, even being a place that you can go to see a movie. Yeah. Again, like you said, a niche thing where you will go to a cinema to see a small film or you go to cinema to see a movie that was made 10 years ago. It's just, it opens up.
And I feel like I know I will be part of the problem. I can complain and moan and say, well, I'm a movie theater experience guy. I love it. But I had the shock where in my town, there's a Family Video, which is like an alternative blockbuster here in the States, that's still surprisingly up and running. You can rent movies or video games and whatnot. And I went in there because I wanted to play a video game, but I didn't want to spend the $60 to play it. And I was like, you know what? This feels so cool being in here. It reminds me of nostalgia. I'm going to come here every week now. I never went back after I returned that thing. I was like, it's so much easier to just rent the movie at my home. And now I think we're fortunate enough to afford, these big TVs or maybe these nice speaker sets where we kind of get close to the movie theater experience, dim some lights and whatnot. Especially, I think that's your theater room right there, Davis.
Yes, it is.
So if you can match that quality even just a little bit, you'll get used to I don't really feel like walking on some sticky floors and eating some stale popcorn today.
Yeah. Well, last weekend, I got to be careful what I say because I'm still embargoed on the film, but I watched Wonder Woman 1984.
Yeah.
I was supposed to go and see it in the cinema. The screening kind of fell through, so they sent over a screener. And I get up at 5 a.m. in the morning. I was thinking, I really would have loved to see this in the cinemas. We've got a 3-meter screen here. Yeah. So I woke up at 5 a.m., Wonder Woman 1984, straight through to my home cinema room. And I was sitting thinking, this is actually not bad. Like I'm watching a brand new blockbuster right here in my cinema room. And I like it, like you said, I just know I'm going to be part of that problem where it's like, oh, Avengers bloody 4 is just straight on my, I'm just going to watch it here. Oh, straight away. It's just, as much as we love that cinematic experience and we got to, try and encourage people to keep it alive, it's just, it is, opens up a whole can of worms.
Well, I worry about the smaller areas too, especially here in the States. Like I live in Kentucky and where I grew up, we had one movie theater within an hour of where I live. One. Right? So are those people, if that movie theater were to close, are they going to drive 2 hours to where I live now and watch a movie? Of course they're not. They're going to watch it on HBO Max. They're going to watch it, whatever platform is releasing movies. So it worries me for more of the general audience than the cinephiles because we're going to try our very best. But like both of you just said, maybe we get comfortable. Maybe we get complacent and say, you know what? I have a nice TV. I have a nice sound system. I like watching a movie in my house, right? So I don't put that past any of us happening. I say right now, I want to go to a movie theater and I want to enjoy these movies in the way that it's intended on enjoying them. But again, it's just so convenient. Look at these. These are convenient. We don't even have to go to a computer to look at come on, guys. And that's just the way the world's going right now. So I definitely worry about the general audience when it comes to something like that.
Yeah. And look, the general audience pull the strings. They're the ones that make Avengers Endgame like a bloody $1 billion blockbusters that they are. But it's the studios that's not the studio that suffers. It's the filmmakers. And now a lot of people are not happy with this move. Now, Wonder Woman 1984 was the first one that they announced. They said, we're going to put this on HBO Max. We're going to test the waters. And everyone, like we said, just assuming we'll see how that goes. And if that goes, really well, they might start doing this with some of the other pictures. But no, they just jumped down and went, no, we're going to put them all out up there. Now, apparently what happened, Deadline reported, they said this is what they said in their report. I'm hearing that Legendary Entertainment, who made Godzilla vs. Kong and Dune for Warner Brothers, I'm hearing that Legendary Entertainment either has or will send legal letters to Warner Brothers as soon as today, challenging the decision to put Dune into HBO Max deal and maybe Godzilla as well. On the latter, Legendary reportedly had Netflix ready to pull the film from Warner Brothers for around $250 million before Warner Media blocked it. Sources said Legendary had no advance notice before last week's announcement that both of the films were part of the HBO Max plan, and in the days following that, we are starting to hear no one was given any warning. The directors, filmmakers, the cast,
So messed up.
no one was given any warning. They were given like a half-hour warning, like, oh yeah, in half an hour we're going to announce this.
Okay, a couple of things with that right there. Like, one, the only person they gave that announcement or that courtesy to was the Wonder Woman team of 1984, Wonder Woman 1984, and they even gave them their contractual bonuses as if the movie were to make $1 billion. So Gal Gadot got an extra $10 million check, and that's great on her. I'm not saying she don't deserve that. That movie probably would have made $1 billion. So good on them for wanting to get that. But the fact that then they didn't do that for the other 17 movies and try to do some sort of calculation of like, your movie might have made 30 million. Yours over here made 700 million. These are your calculated bonuses. Instead of just plopping them on, I don't blame all these people for getting so upset at Warner Brothers for doing this. I also, Legendary, they must feel so angry because it was them who put up 75% of the budget. So they have the biggest stake right now in their monster universe. And this is a film that's been delayed, like, I think 3 years now. So the money's really racking up in whatever they loaned out. And so I think they were really ready for that Netflix deal, which I think, given how much the monster universe has been making and the decline in the budget, I think that would have been amazing for them. So I'm surprised Warner Brothers did that. And it's all for their purpose, for their streaming service that Legendary has no stake in, that I don't even know if they have stock in or a partner in. So can you just imagine handing them your movie and then they're using it to their advantage without telling you anything? So I'll be curious to know what the legal outcome comes out to be.
Sure.
I would think that someone sat back and at least thought about this and said, you know what, maybe we should think of it as a business. We should tell our employees what's going on. We should not make these drastic decisions. I don't mind the decision at this point in time because we don't know what's going to happen with the pandemic. But maybe we should tell someone other than this one small crew, because in the grand scheme of things, 17, 18 movies, that's a small portion of all the people that you have to let in, yet they never let them know. So even though I do think some are, maybe going a little bit overboard, I completely understand Denis Villeneuve getting a little upset, not knowing his movie was not just coming to theaters, but coming to a streaming service where I guarantee most of the views will come from that.
Absolutely.
When you build a film like that, Godzilla, those grand scale blockbusters that are built to be seen on the big screen, I don't blame anyone for getting upset. And it's so funny to see the two headliners right now, Christopher Nolan, The Beef, Denis Villeneuve, The Beef. Those are my two favorite directors. So I'm sitting back going, man, y'all don't make the big boys mad, and they're making the big boys mad, man. And it is just
my Lord.
chaos right now.
Like you said, it's something that we as an audience, we kind of go, it's not bad. I don't mind this idea, and it is again this organic evolution of the cinematic experience. But the idea that they don't tell the people involved in making the movies or involve them in these conversations is just so baffling. And you kind of, it's like this double-edged sword where you're like, oh, I love this, but I don't love this at all. And a list of stars, now these have been reported in all the trades that are not happy. Again, as you mentioned, Gal Gadot and Patty Jenkins were both paid in excess of $10 million each. On the back of this deal, the money that they would have made off Wonder Woman had it gone and, been a huge blockbuster. None of the other stars of these films were offered this deal. According to, now who wrote this one? New York Times noted that Warner Brothers stars like Denzel Washington, Margot Robbie, Will Smith, Keanu Reeves, Hugh Jackman, Angelina Jolie wanted to know why their clients had been treated in a lesser manner than Miss Gadot. Talk of Warner Brothers boycott began circulating inside the Directors Guild of America, and a partner at one talent agency spent the best part of the weekend meeting with litigators. Some people started to angrily refer to the studio as the Former Bros.
I love that. Former Brothers.
That's our band name, guys. Come on, we're doing it.
Absolutely. We are the Former Brothers. A Hollywood Reporter article quoted a top talent agent saying, Warner's has made a grave mistake. Never have this many people been this upset with one entity. As you mentioned, Christopher Nolan, the golden boy of Warner Brothers, had this to say to the Hollywood Reporter. Some of our industry's biggest filmmakers and most important movie stars went to bed the night before thinking they were working for the greatest movie studio, and woke up to find they were working for the world's worst streaming service.
That hurts.
Warner Brothers had an incredible machine for getting a filmmaker's work out everywhere, both in theaters and at the home. And they're dismantling it as we speak. They don't even understand what they're losing. Their decision makes no economic sense, and even the most casual Wall Street investor can see the difference between disruption and dysfunction. He just went all out on them.
Yeah. But I mean, he's right on a lot of things there. I just don't see the economic benefit in this at all. I get that they want their streaming service to gain some numbers and do gangbusters, and that's perfectly fine. But like, this just feels like a total loss that I don't understand how the sacrifice is worth the outcome at all. Like, maybe I'm missing some numbers. I'm obviously not an accountant, but I think anybody looking at this and hearing at it is like, this is going to lose so many people money. Why are you doing this?
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's tough to say they're the worst streaming service.
Oh, yeah.
Does that mean he prefers Quibi? I mean, I know Quibi's not a thing
well,
anymore.
They're gone now, so
does that mean or like a Peacock, right? Because I just don't see that. I mean, that is with Quibi, I guess, very fresh in everyone's mind to say that, man. Nolan. Woo, big time, man.
I mean,
especially since he knows his movies are exclusively for HBO Max. I mean, they're all Warner Brother films.
Well, the interesting thing here is that he really pushed Warner's to get Tenet into cinemas. And that crashed and burned, essentially, on the theatrical front.
Fortunately.
And I feel like that move is really what's led to this. They've looked at Tenet and gone, no, that movie didn't do well at all. Let's just shove all these on the streaming service. So in one respect, maybe he's just annoyed that, maybe we shouldn't have put that movie out. Maybe we're... I don't know. There's just so much to think about. It's crazy. Another director that was not pleased was James Gunn, who has just headed the Suicide Squad.
Of course,
and of course, the director of Dune, I can't pronounce his name. Austin, you did a very good job at that.
Denis Villeneuve, I think. I do like 3 different pronunciations, so we're there now.
Well, he's referred to this as a hijacking. He says, with this decision, AT&T has hijacked one of the most respectful and important studios in film history. Absolutely no love for cinema, nor for the audience. It's all about the survival of a telecom mammoth, one that is currently bearing an astronomical debt of more than $150 billion. And he just goes on. Again, he wrote like an actual, he wrote an article for Variety. And it's very interesting to read, and you can tell, in contrast to the Christopher Nolan, where you can tell Nolan's very angry, he's just a bit disappointed, and he's like, it's really sad to see this happen, especially with his film, and he thinks that this is going to ruin the chance for Dune to become a franchise, because this movie will go on the streaming service and will underperform.
It will. And also because he was being bullied too by Warner Brothers to try and finish the film before December, back when we thought everything would go back to normal by then. So I just feel like he's feeling pushed around, unappreciated, when he's one of the best directors we have working right now. You know, I mean, if Christopher Nolan retires anytime soon, he's taking up that mantle as the Warner Brothers favorite if he can get his box numbers up. But without this type of support, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
That, to me, that's almost worse than being angry, is someone being disappointed.
You're like,
that's the worst.
To
have a filmmaker of that caliber, and Chris, that's a great point, because how do we measure Denis' success now? Because before it was box office numbers, and he just never quite got there. Critical reception through the roof, but even he never got there with the box office numbers. Now, how do we measure that success other than just critical reception? I mean, it's going to be very difficult to see how successful these movies really are with this HBO Max plan.
And especially because each streaming service has their own version of telling you. Because I think Netflix is like they measure if you watch 2 minutes of it, that counts as an entire view.
So dumb.
Are they gonna do the same thing, or are they gonna make it down to 30 seconds or a minute? How far into it is they're gonna measure? It's like we had the most views on this movie as long as people watch at least a minute of it.
Yeah, and it's like they are very hesitant to release any kind of numbers about, how many people watch this, unless it's like huge. Disney Plus has been the same. They've been very quiet about numbers for particularly Mulan, which went on there. There's been all these industry reports. Oh, it did this much, it did this. And then you just kind of, so we're at this point now where they don't need to tell you how well their movies are going. And again, as you said, Austin, it makes it difficult for people like us who are trying to make predictions and tell the news, and it just changes everything. There's just this domino effect right down to us guys who are just talking about the stuff.
I've told Austin this for the longest time, since if you don't know Austin's channel, he reviews everything and anything on streaming services. The way I gauge if something was popular on streaming is if that review of the certain thing was higher than another. So if he reviewed season, 3 of 13 Reasons Why, and it was like over 20,000 views, and then this other action show was like 3,000 views, I'm like, 13 Reasons Why is getting some good numbers on Netflix, I think.
Well, that's honestly part of how I determine what I'm going to review, because it's always these niche things too, right? Because I'll review every show, and sometimes it's 13 episodes. I think it's going to be a heavily watched show. My video doesn't do all that well, but then it's this random 6-episode show I've never heard of with unknown actors, and it's one of my best viewed videos over the last couple of weeks. So it's so hard to make that determination. But if I notice like a decline in subsequent seasons, most likely I'll kind of stop reviewing that show. And that's how I gauge what videos I do now. But in terms of knowing the numbers, and I'm glad they implemented the top 10. Netflix did that. So that kind of helps me out. But other than that, watching something for 2 minutes, everybody could watch something for 2 minutes and click away. It all comes down to, if you go through the entire show and then you want to look up a review, and how do I gauge something like that? So with Netflix, it is so tough, and I hope they fix it eventually.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm at a loss for words for everything. I mean, we've spoken for 40 minutes on it, but it gets to a point where you just like, you can't predict anymore. You don't know where it's all going. One of the big predictions that's come out, Variety article noted that a media and tech research firm predicts that the global cinema industry is set to lose $32 billion this year alone due to the pandemic, and a 71.5% reduction in box office revenue compared to 2019.
Oh, my goodness.
Now, naturally, of course, the numbers aren't going to be the same. No movies have been coming out. People haven't been going to see the movies that are out there. But this is the repercussion that you're going to deal with over the next few years or into the future when movies aren't opening at cinemas. So where does this leave us when it comes to the kind of budgets these studios give to movies? Are we going to get huge blockbuster things? I mean, you've got Disney Plus of throwing like $100 million into something like The Mandalorian, which is like a third of the budget of a 2-hour movie. They're throwing into like an 8-hour series. So are we going to start seeing these blockbusters made on these really small budgets because they're just not making the money? $32 billion loss at the box office.
That's something I am kind of excited about. I know that might sound bad, but I would love for Hollywood to step back, relook at the way they spend, because like something like Terminator Dark Fate, which I'm always up for another Terminator movie, but the fact that they spend like I think $150 million on that movie when the series has just been on the decline since the third movie just blows my mind that the studio thought it would be a good idea and it would actually make money. Hopefully with these lower budgets, it makes them focus more on the story. And I would think that's what would happen. But then you look at something like Blumhouse that just has such a roller coaster of quality. They make something amazing like Get Out, and then they'll come out with something like Fantasy Island. So just low budget and focusing on story doesn't always work out, but at least it kind of minimizes the loss. So I don't mind if Hollywood starts going with these lower budgets and maybe adopts a Blumhouse model, because I think it would be a good way for us to focus more on the storytelling.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I know something like The Mandalorian, like obviously 8 hours, 8 episodes, I guess not 8 hours, but 8 episodes, you know, you're throwing in $100 million, but look at that behind the scenes that we got last night. The technology that they're using for that price, and obviously you have to pay the actors and whatnot. I think it can be done. I think we can make some bigger scale, beautiful blockbusters for maybe a budget that's a little bit smaller. And if you do that, the movies will be more successful that way, right? Yeah. And maybe that means we don't get a really famous actor to have a cameo role because you're going to have to pay him a little bit too much money, right? And you're going to go over budget if you do that. So, we may be a little bit of a give and take there, but I think it can be done. And honestly, like you, Chris, I'm a little bit excited about that, at the opportunity of getting some smaller budgets and maybe doing a bit more with it. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes, for sure.
Yeah, I totally believe you make a $30 million Spider-Man movie, that has the potential to hit $1 billion, and it might not, look the way you expect from everything that we've seen so far. But if the story is good, I don't think we really care.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm watching Mandalorian, and you think this just looks like a film. Like you wouldn't know. Like the general public wouldn't know this has been made on, the third of a budget of a 2-hour film. It's insane. And this new technology they've got, I think, so you're going to start costing them less money to make these movies. And then, maybe that leads to bigger successes. Maybe we're going to see this shift in Hollywood where now $1 billion isn't the benchmark. It's like 500 million or 600 million or something, It's just, it just changes everything. Again, right down to just the smallest things. I mean, you look back to the 1940s, a couple of $100,000 or like $1 million, $2 million was a success sort of thing. Maybe we're just sort of receding back. If we're talking about crazy spending, we won't spend too much on this one, but Johnny Depp, of course, got kicked off the Fantastic Beasts films and has been paid out $16 million. He got paid out his entire contract when they kicked him off the film because they didn't open a morality clause. So essentially, if, they put this clause in the contract, which is like, if you do something to damage our reputation or whatever, we don't have to pay you. There's no morality clause in there. He shot one scene and got paid out $16 million.
That's awesome.
Absolutely if I'm insane. Getting $16 million, y'all can kick me out. Like that is, and I understand what he's going through. Like that entire situation is crazy, right? Mm-hmm. But to not include that and to have to pay that man, we talk about budgets for movies. A lot of the money goes to these actors, exactly, and that is $16 million essentially wasted for Fantastic Beasts. Think about that. Yeah. Fantastic Beasts. So we'll see.
And especially when you hear, like what Dave was saying, how much the movie industry is losing, and then hearing that they gave in total $20 million bonuses to Patty Jenkins and Gal Gadot. And I'm like, where's Warner Brothers getting all this money? No wonder they're in so much debt where they have to pay off this stuff. But as far as the Johnny Depp situation is all, like, I just always say I wasn't in the relationship. I wasn't there. Right. I don't know what happened. I like him as an actor. I hope he can bounce back. But again, like I said, I just don't know.
That's one of those crazy things. Yeah, I just thought, it's worth bringing that up at this time where we're talking about losing so much money in the studios and just seeing all these weird little all these weird little avenues where they're losing money and they're just throwing money away, or as you said, $10 million to Gal Gadot and $10 million to Patty Jenkins, $16 million to Johnny Depp. It's like, and then you kind of think, well, but this is why they've kept it on the down low for everyone else, because they're going, oh, you know what? Once they find out we're throwing away money like this, everyone else is going to want a piece of this pie, and we're already losing money on the movies. So you understand where it's coming from, but it's just not a. It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. Let's move on.
Like that's the budget for Annabelle.
Oh yeah,
that's a movie.
Yeah,
that's a movie. I mean, come on, guys, you're just throwing money away. That is insane. The fact that it's constantly like that. So many occasions that we probably haven't even heard of. $10 million, $20 million, $30 million. That's another film from probably a talented filmmaker that you could have made. So that's what blows me away about it.
Yeah, it's just it's crazy money. It's crazy, and it's just stuff that we can't comprehend. But to them, it's probably like peanuts, Johnny Depp was paid. Johnny Depp was making so much more on the Pirates films than $16 million. That to him's just like, just a little bit more on the side. Give me my $16 million. But anyway, let's move on from that because it's just, again, so explosive. And there's some more just crazy things that's happened this week. Spider-Man 3. Let's go on to Spider-Man 3. What on earth is happening here? This has just come out of nowhere. This is like everything that everyone's been like, yes, I want this movie to happen. And it's just suddenly happened. Mind blown.
it is too much to comprehend. I don't even understand what this Spider-Man movie is anymore, because every day we're just hearing so much, and it's even like a meme online. It's just like, this person has joined and this person has joined, and even Tom Holland has joined, and you know, like the Alfred Molina. Well, let's talk about like what has been confirmed already. So we know Electro, and we know Alfred Molina, who's playing Dr. Octopus, and Doctor Strange in there, and just those people alone as a confirmation that they're in there. I am blown away. I am just thinking of the possibilities of what could even happen here, and it's funny how all the obvious clues are right there, but we're still skeptical and thinking to ourselves, is Toby and Andrew gonna show up? Maybe not, but it's like, it's literally staring us in the face, and we don't want to just believe it.
Well, you posted a picture of was it Toby allegedly going to a costuming or something?
But like, that's how crazy they went, because like people wanted me to like make an own video about that, but I'm like, guys, literally this is him going to a costume fitting that we don't even know if it's related to Spider-Man 3. He could be doing another movie right now, but like, even the way that post was worded on the people who posted it up, they were like, Tobey Maguire spotted while there's these rumors. I'm like, okay, Andrew Garfield eating a bagel while there's these rumors. That's just how pumped fans are to want to know something about this movie.
To me it was when Sam Raimi got confirmed for Doctor Strange. That's kind of when my blood started pumping up a little bit. I'm like, all right, well, you know, there's the obvious Spider-Man connection. The movie's titled Multiverse of Madness. I mean, how do you not get the guy who directed Spider-Man and not bring in Tobey Maguire? But even then, we're all sitting back going, nah, it's not going to happen. But also 10 years ago, did we ever think we were going to see Thanos take on the Avengers? I mean, these things continually blow us away. And in the span of 2 years, we're getting a DC and a Marvel multiverse. And I have a good feeling, and I know Andrew Garfield confirmation, all these things. I have a good feeling we're getting Toby back. And I have a good feeling all of these things, maybe not the Daredevil. I think the Daredevil, my
that was a weird one.
Fanboy in me wants the Daredevil, but
a random one.
I think these things are coming to pass, guys, and I have a good feeling about all of it.
Yeah. And like, even so much more, because I mean, Feige, he couldn't say too much, which was understandable, and we'll dive deeper into the Disney Investor Day event. But like, that whole event is about buy Disney stock because we're doing great things. So he can't really say, you know, Spider-Man 3's coming, because then that's Sony and that's their stock, and he doesn't want to promote that. But the one drop a line he said there is that Spider-Man 3 directly affects what will happen in Doctor Strange 2. And I'm like, that movie's literally called Multiverse, and I'm still over here trying not to get my hopes up that they'll show up. I'm honestly, I love Toby. That's the one I grew up with. But, you know, I have a soft spot for Andrew Garfield, and I felt like so bad just the way I feel he was cheated out of his third movie, or he was treated at Sony at the time. I don't even know if you guys were keeping up with the news back then when the Sony leaks were happening, and how these board officials fired Andrew Garfield over being late to one meeting and stuff like that. So I'm happy that there's a chance that they could come back. And even just the thought of they're bringing their girlfriends with them, Kristen Dunst and Emma Stone, like, how is that going to play out? Like, I really feel like this movie has to be 4 hours long to encompass everything, because I already thought he was dealing with too much with his identity out there.
That's the Andrew Garfield thing is great because it spells redemption. And honestly, for Toby too, I mean, we think great Spider-Man movies, but then you think, oh, well, that last one I guess wasn't that great. So redemption for both of those characters. I think of someone like Emma Stone, and spoiler for Amazing Spider-Man 2, but her character died. Could they be doing another universe with the Spider-Gwen? I mean, there are a lot of possibilities with all of these characters, but I love the redemption arc for Toby and Andrew, especially Andrew. Like Chris said, I think there's a lot that they could do with that character now.
It's very exciting. Again, as I said before, overwhelming. You kind of think like the reason Spider-Man 3, the original Spider-Man 3, didn't do well was because they overloaded it with characters, overloaded it with villains, and just so much going on. And you look at something like this where you're like, okay, we've got 3 Spider-Men, we've got 3 MJs, we've got, all these villains are coming back from the old films. We're probably going to have some new villains and stuff. And then, of course, there's random rumors about Charlie Cox is coming back as Daredevil. And you kind of go, this is exciting, but it's also a little bit worrying. They're shoving so much into this movie, if this is true, and it doesn't happen to be. Again, it could just be that there's like a 5-minute segment where they're traveling through the multiverse, and, hey, it's Toby, hey, it's Andrew, and then it's over. But what do you feel about this? I mean, just all this stuff that's getting supposedly shoved into this one film.
It's funny to think, we're so scared about this when, Marvel, they gave us Endgame, they gave us Infinity War, and that is like so many characters, and they managed to make it work, and we're still worried about overcrowding. But I mean, Spider-Man just has a history of his movies overcrowding, especially when it comes leading up to the third movie. They just like to pack in as many people as they can. I think it'll work out. I'm just curious to the amount of screen time each of these characters will have. It'll really suck if these were the surprise cameos and it just all leaked out ahead of time. Right now, I'm going to be like, oh, okay, well, that sucks right there. But if we get it, I have to think this will lead to a bigger event. Even if they are cameos, I'm thinking there's a little seeds that maybe the next trilogy, because I remember back when they signed on Tom Holland, they were like, no, we want him for like 6 or 7 movies going all throughout. Well, the next trilogy, I would love it if each one was inside its own spider world. So the next one will be in Tobey's world, and the one after that in Andrew Garfield's world. Then the third one, Tom Holland ends up back in his time, and I'm like, oh, that'd be great.
That's kind of where I think, not cameo necessarily, but planting seeds for the future. Because if you're getting these guys, if you're getting Andrew and Tobey, why not get them on board for a few more movies, or at least one more big Into the Spider-Verse movie, even if that plays out in something like a Doctor Strange, and planting these little seeds. I want to know, though, do you guys trust John Watts? And not that he's failed us. I've enjoyed both Spider-Man films quite a bit, but he's not the director I look at if this is indeed a Spider-Verse movie, and I say that's the guy to do a Spider-Verse movie. Now, Marvel trusts him. They gave him Fantastic Four. They obviously like him a lot. But how do you guys feel about John Watts?
I am hesitant on him because I'll be honest, I only like Homecoming. Okay, I kind of like it a little more each time I watch it, but I was not completely in love with it. I was a little disappointed. Far From Home, I ended up loving. I really like what they did there, kind of redeemed John Watts for me. And if they gave him Fantastic Four now, it only kind of lets me know that what he's cooking up with 3 is really good, and maybe stepping it up from 2. At least that's what I'm hoping for. Can you imagine if the reviews for 3 are horrible and people are already bagging on poor John Watts that they don't want him for Fantastic Four? I honestly, I'll have to see this third movie to see if he's capable of doing it, because right now I'm hesitant. He gave me one okay movie and one really great movie.
Yeah, I feel the same. I mean, when you look at the Russo brothers being handed Captain America after essentially only doing like Community and stuff like that, you kind of go, geez, how are these guys going to handle this? And they just blew it away, and then they took over the Avengers franchise. I mean, stories like this happen all the time. So I just hope that, this guy can run away with it. He has done. I mean, look at the Spider-Man movies. They're not huge. They are fairly grounded. I mean, the last one was on a big scale, Mysterio and going around Europe and everything. But they are smaller, more intimate stories. So it then does, you kind of feel like, okay, how's he going to handle this big, enormous thing? But the interesting thing is, like, when you start to break down like Infinity War and Endgame, and you look at like, Iron Man had like 8 minutes of screen time or something in the movies, and you don't realize it. You're there for 3 hours and you go, oh, well, Iron Man was in it for like 8 minutes, but it felt like he's in it for the whole thing. So I feel like with Spider-Man 3, they're probably going to do the same thing. They'll stagger, the appearances and stuff, and you're just going to sit there and you're just going to love it, I think. And I just hope they pull it off. If this is the route we're going down, let's just hope it. Because there's a lot of Marvel stuff coming up, and we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about that later, actually, because we'll go through the Disney Investor Day, and we'll kind of make our way through the announcements from all the various subsidiaries and stuff. We'll kind of touch on the Marvel stuff at the end, because that's the exciting stuff. But yeah, the Marvel have got their Disney as a whole has got their baskets full. I mean, I was sitting here as you guys would have been as well yesterday, watching the investor panel and just going, "Oh my lord!" Well, number one, how am I going to cover all of this in the videos?
That was my biggest stress.
Number two, how on earth am I going to watch all this content? And that's it. I was going to say number 3, but I don't have a number 3. But yeah, just like it's just overload. It's like it's overwhelming just thinking about it. I will do a recap. I don't know. I'm thinking about doing a recap of like every major announcement, but I don't know how I'm going to pull that together because there's just so much.
I thought, I was taking my notes as the event was going on, and I told myself, I'm just going to shoot one giant video summarizing quickly everything that went down. And as the event kept going and going and going, I was like, this is not going to be possible. No. I'm going to kill myself trying to make that video. So I broke it down to like, the Marvel event and the stuff I found most fascinating. And if I tried covering every little thing here, I mean, you'll see what I am passionate and not passionate about as we go through the list.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
I was just going to say, I thought I'd get it all knocked out last night because I did the 2-hour and 50-minute live stream reacting. And I saw other people doing it. So I'm like, you know what? We're going to be okay. And, the video did well. And I'm like, I got it out of the way. We're good. And then blocked worldwide due to 40 seconds of content at the end of the 3 hours. It got blocked. So it was gone for 3 hours. So I said, oh, man. And I scrambled. So then I did a top 10 moments video. And then my claim, they took out the minute and I was good. So the video comes back. And that's never happened to me before. Yeah. So out of that entire 3 hours, only like 40 seconds of it is what got the video blocked worldwide. And so I ended up having 2 videos. But I'll tell you what, guys, just seeing that play out in real time and getting everybody else's reactions and tuning into both of your all's videos and just seeing Chris's face light up and Dave, your covering of the animation was fantastic. It was one big moment, maybe the first, DC Fandom, one of the first moments of 2020 where everyone could come together and get excited about something, not just movies, anything. Yeah. And everyone's saying, I had so many comments, this is the best day of the year so far. And you know what? For me, it was one of the best days because it was just so much fun, man.
Yeah, it's funny because when we were talking about doing this podcast last week, and I was like, you know what, we should push it back maybe a day just in case there's some big stuff that comes out of this Disney Investor. I've watched these Disney Investor Days for the last few years, and they're never anything like this. It's usually just like last year they went over Disney Plus. They announced, here's a bunch of like projects we're making for Disney Plus. They announced some of the Marvel stuff. They announced, a couple of the original films. Very easy. It was so easy for me to get up. I was in England at the time, so I was watching it in the evening. So I was able to get up in the morning and do a video, and I was done. And then I thought, you know what, I covered the D23 event really, really easily last year. And then I realized, hang on a minute, that was like all these panels kind of spread out over the course of a weekend. And then essentially what we ended up getting yesterday was this entire massive D23 panel shoved into one 4-hour kind of thing. And I'm sitting there going, there's no way I'm going to be able to cover this the way that, I had even planned to. I was hoping to get, get a video. No, it did not happen that way. There's just a lot of stuff. Let's start going over it, hey? Because we've got, we want to cap this off at an hour and a half today. I've been going to 2 hours the last few weeks, and I really don't like doing that. And you guys, you got to get out and do your own thing. So we're going to cap it at half an hour. Let's just go through some of these things, give our thoughts, whether we like it and stuff. Some of the bigger stuff we can talk a little bit longer on, but we'll just sort of kind of go through, the bigger stuff. Disney Plus announced quite a few things. Raya and the Last Dragon is going to Disney Plus and cinemas. They're doing the Premier Access thing that they did with Mulan, except Mulan they didn't put in cinemas. They're putting Raya in cinemas. They didn't announce a price. I'm guessing it's probably going to be about $30, which was the last time. Maybe they'll bring it down because there was such a big backlash over the $30 price point last time. Yeah. The interesting thing with this is going to see how many people go to a cinema and see it, because everyone was complaining, put Mulan in cinemas. I'd rather have that choice to go. This will be that decided to be like, well, is it actually worth doing this kind of split platforming thing? What are you guys thinking about this release strategy for Raya?
Yeah, not a lot of people are talking about this, but this is their big tester, I think, for Disney right here. This is going to be their model for the future in determining whether we think we can do sort of an HBO Max thing. This right here is going to be what they determine if, like, okay, maybe we could do theater and home release with this little $30 charge right there, kind of get the best of both worlds right there. Still curious how Mulan did, but I think with the $30, since I'm only a party of 2 in my household, I'll still go to the theater to watch it. But I think Disney's going to really be looking at those numbers right there.
Yeah. Well, it was strange to see because, after announcing Soul with no charge, I'm like, oh, well, I guess Mulan didn't do all that great. But then we get Raya and the Last Dragon with a charge. So why the difference there? Why Soul doing this and Raya and the Last Dragon doing that? It just seems a bit inconsistent for me. It's not a bad strategy. Like you guys said, you go to the movie, you're going to spend that much anyway, more than that with the popcorn. And, so at the end of the day, I think you're honestly saving money if you have a couple members in your family, but just the way that they're doing it with Soul this way and Raya this way and whether it keeps going, it's just a bit odd to me, to be honest.
Feels like they're experimenting. They're like, let's do it like this with this film. We'll do it like this with this film. We'll do it like what else have we got to lose? We've lost so much money this year. They've lost so much money. Even just pushing the movies back costs them money. And I think they're just like, let's just test out all these different strategies and just see what works best. And instead of going all out like Warner Brothers or following Warner Brothers and going, yeah, we're going to do the exact same thing, which many people were speculating might have been announced yesterday. I think they're just taking it easy and going, let's try it a few different ways and see what works best for us, what people want, and they'll go forward from there. A big one yesterday. Again, this one didn't get much news, maybe because this is more international.
Big for you.
Big for me. I'm very excited about this one. Europe, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and some other international markets will be getting a sixth brand title integrated into the Disney Plus app, which is going to be called Star. Of course, they have a streaming platform in India called Hotstar. So this is essentially like that version of that for kind of, I guess, the European market. It's going to add general entertainment content to Disney Plus, PG-13 to 18 plus. It's going to be stuff that's made by general entertainment content, as I said, made by like 20th Century Pictures, and I'm assuming a lot of the Hulu stuff is going to wind up. This is essentially like our version of Hulu, but they're integrating it into the app. Up the top, you've got Star Wars, Marvel, Pixar. You're going to have Star up there now as well. And they're going to charge us a little bit extra for it. It's probably going to be, I think in Europe, it's like €2 more, which is probably equates to about $5 more here in Australia. So we'll see a price hike. I believe in other international territories, such as Latin America, they're launching it as a separate app called Star Plus. And you can either have Star Plus and Disney Plus, or you can get a bundle that has both of them in it together. So again, even this is just a really strange way of them going around and doing this and trying to offer its different content. And I guess it's just based on different countries and what works best. But I'm very excited because it gives me the chance to see some Hulu stuff. And, 20th Century Pictures stuff that might have been on like FX, or, you're going to be bringing Family Guy and stuff like that onto... I can't complain. It's just and I can't complain about the extra like $5 as well, because look at all the extra content they're going to be giving us. It's essentially getting two streaming platforms into one. People will complain, but at the end of the day, the amount of content that we're getting for free, it's like you can't complain about it. So I'm very excited about that one. Doesn't affect you guys. Well, it might. Who knows?
Well, my mind goes to, again, is this a test? Are they testing the international markets first to see if they would be okay with an integrated, mature content app within Disney Plus? I was surprised it wasn't announced because I really thought they were going to merge together. But I also have to remember Disney owns the majority of Hulu, but I don't believe they own 100% of it, isn't it? I think they own I think it's like 50 or 60 or something like that. So maybe that's the reason, because I thought that's what they would do, is put Hulu in Disney Plus for domestic markets and whatnot. But instead they're keeping it two separate entities there. I mean, the other thing I was excited about is Alien TV series on Hulu or FX that'll go to Hulu, but that's cool.
Yeah, it's, they announced... I don't know if I wrote it there, but they did announce that 20th Century Pictures and Searchlight Pictures are going to be making original films for Hulu now. So I'm imagining they'll probably go to the Star or on Star Plus or whatever it is. So more content, can't complain about it, even if I have to pay an extra $5 for it. But yeah, so that's something that's quite interesting that did come out of there. And again, didn't get much airplay. Got buried by all the stuff we're going to talk about now. Disney animation. This was exciting for me. TV series. Disney Animation are diving into TV series for the first time ever. We've had Disney TV series for years and years and years, but never out of Disney Animation. It's always been Disney Toon Studios or Disney Animation TV or whatever they call it now. We're getting actual TV series made by the animation arm, which is just so exciting for me. We're getting a Baymax series. We're getting a Zootopia series, which actually seems a little bit underwhelming to me. We're getting a Tiana series based on Princess and the Frog, which is one of my favorite Disney animations from the last 10, 11 years, and a Moana series as well. The one thing that I'm a bit disappointed about is that there's no original stuff. It's all based on previous, so it's not much different to the Tangled series that's on the Disney Channel, or there's a Big Hero 6 show on the Disney Channel, stuff that I don't even watch. But I'm really excited about this idea. I mean, where do you guys, how do you guys feel about this announcement?
For me, the thing between those four, so the Baymax, Zootopia Plus, Tiana, and the Moana series that they announced here, the one I, was surprised that you just said, the Zootopia Plus one is the one that got me, because I recently rewatched Zootopia because it was on TV, and I just remember thinking, this world is so amazing. How could they not do a sequel? How could they not explore more parts of this land? Just because it's just so fascinating to see how the animals interact and interlive in this, that I would love to see more. And that's what they're doing. Maybe I would have preferred it more like an anthology series where, you see a different animal living in Zootopia and whatnot and what they go through. But I think they're only focusing on 3 of the supporting characters from the original movie. So that's fine. The Baymax series, cool. Tiana, also cool. Moana, cool. But I probably won't be checking in until I have like a little youngling with me.
I had hoped for a sequel to all of these, most of these movies. Now, part of me thinks, I don't know if we'll ever see like a Moana sequel now that we have this TV show, but they've done that before. They've given us shows and still done sequels. Man, I love Moana so much. I am hyped to go back to that world. And they announced that Lin-Manuel Miranda, not necessarily this series, but he's just all Disney all the time now with all of the things that Pixar and Disney is announcing. So to revisit that music will be fantastic. And this is just another thing to bring more families into Disney Plus, because Star Wars and Marvel, and that's great, but maybe the youngest of young, they don't really care about that. You see Baymax, come on now. That my kid is 100% going to be tuning into that. Don't have a kid yet. Will eventually, hopefully. But we will just have to see if this even further expanding into the younger and younger, more family members, more people for Disney Plus, and their subscriber count is going to go through the roof.
Oh, for sure. I mean, they announced, I didn't write it down here. What was their subscriber count at the moment? Something
86 million,
86 million, and they predicted they'd have 60 within 4 years. They said something like they predict like 260 million subscribers over the next 3 years or something crazy like that. It's like, this
and
thing
that was
is behemoth.
with barely any content.
Oh, yeah. There's nothing. The only like big blockbuster original thing that's on there at the moment is Mandalorian. Yeah, and that's been a lot of people's big complaint, I guess, coming out of it is like, what this original content they're giving us. They're giving us these fluffy original films and a few series like High School Musical, the series, or whatever it is. And the Mandalorian's really the only big thing. But once you watch the 8 episodes of the Mandalorian, a lot of people are tuning out or canceling subscription. But with all this stuff, I mean, you got all these series, as you said, it's going to keep those families and that's what they want. I mean, that's the lifeblood of the Disney company, is that family audience. And Pixar, we will talk about Pixar in a minute. We'll talk about this now because it's kind of very similar, but Pixar's doing 2 series as well, one based on Cars and one based on Up, which will focus on Carl and the dog, Doug. It's called Doug Days, which is going to be quite interesting. So even Pixar's getting in on this. They're doing a series called Win or Lose as well, which is going to be their first long-form series. So even Pixar's jumping into making these animated series. It's all just really looking up for the original content as far as television shows go for Disney Plus when you're talking about the family crowd. Disney Animation announced their next film. It's called, I think it's pronounced Encanto, which takes you to Colombia, where a magical family live in a magical home. And as you said, Lin-Manuel Miranda, all in on that Disney. He's doing the music for this. I cannot wait. Cannot wait.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I'll have to see more footage from it, but the little snippets of music that they played, I thought were really well.
Yeah, it looks just the foray into, and you mentioned Truth? Was it the Disney one, Truth
Win or
Dare,
Lose,
or Win or Lose? Yeah, like that's, to me, just they sparked that idea while writing this movie, and now they're making like
classic
that's
Pixar
the originality.
Fashion.
Seriously. So I want that originality, man, and this Encanto and that. I mean, all of these things just feel like Disney and Pixar, they're finding their groove, and they're using Disney Plus to do it. So I just love it, man. I love seeing that.
Particularly Pixar. I mean, they've been doing so many sequels recently, and it's almost like they that they're just burning to do some original stuff, and this is giving them an outlet. I spoke to some members from the core animation team that worked on Frozen and the new Frozen short that went on Disney Plus. And they were sort of saying the same thing, that this Disney Plus, he's given them this more creative outlet. And the studio is just as, good with them with this as they are on the films, letting them just kind of have that freedom and, got the smaller budget, smaller time frame, but, let them just do their own thing. And as we said, Win or Lose, for those who aren't aware, it's this series. Again, you said they spawned this idea off the back of working on Toy Story 4, where one artist would come out of a meeting thinking that was great, and the other artist thought that was a disaster. So they're sort of doing this series that's kind of based around that idea. I think the whole series is based on this 1 week at a school, and each episode is a different perspective, a different character. It's crazy, and that's a Pixar that we know and love. It's great to see more of that coming back. Pixar, man. They are going to kill it over the next few years. Some of these films they've announced. Turning Red is one. It's about a 15-year-old girl who turns into a big red panda when she gets too excited. It's described as like the Incredible Hulk, but cuter. What do we think about this one?
That caught me by surprise when they were describing it, because I was like, oh, obviously she just turns extremely red, maybe just come for having to deal with and then it turned into a panda. I was like, what? But the funny thing is, whenever Pixar comes with an original, I always dislike the idea at first. I'm not gonna lie. I like whenever the Up came out and it was like a little boy with a scoutsman floating house and so on and so forth. I always go through this process where I just don't like the idea they come out with. I see the movie and I absolutely love it. And I think this is going to turn out the same way. So, and I can relate to it. I'm a person who gets red very often. I'm sure that's kind of the little metaphor that they were trying to go with. So I think it's going to be cute.
Yeah. I normally don't even respond to Pixar's trailers all that often. Soul's an exception, but Onward and Toy Story 4 and even Incredibles 2, I'm like, the trailer's just a little disappointing. And then you see the movie and they blow you away. Yeah. So I know this is an idea. It looks a little cheesy, okay, but Pixar, you just can't. They're like Studio Ghibli. It's Pixar, so you have to trust them. And I think this idea is so cute with Turning Red.
Absolutely. I'm the same. I'm same with you, Chris. You always just, I think it's even with the Disney stuff is like, the concept is just, but then the more you hear about it and then the more you see and you're like, geez, this is amazing. Even when they announced Soul at first, it was a bit like, it just sounds like Inside Out. It's like, are we doing the same thing again? Is this a sequel? Is that, and then they just completely, I haven't seen that yet. You guys have seen Soul, right?
I have not. I was denied a screener.
Oh.
It's okay. It's okay.
I have, well, you know what? Yeah, it's my number one movie of the year.
So wow.
Very excited.
That's as far as
I'm really upset they denied me.
Yeah, well, I'm here with you. I'm waiting on my clearance for that one too. Apparently the clearance through that title is going through the US arm. So I've had to put in my request with the Australian arm of Disney Plus, and it goes to the US and they decide who gets it or not. So I've been waiting for a week to hear back. I don't know what's going to happen. So I might be sitting there on Christmas Day and watching it along with you, Chris. We'll see how that goes.
A lot of watch on Christmas Day.
Oh, so much. And I went over that a couple of weeks ago and here just all the movies that are coming out, like Netflix, that Tom Hanks film, News of the World. And, oh, man, I'm just...
I just reviewed that today. That's a good one. That's a good one, man.
There you go. The big one that come out of Pixar. We talk about originality and stuff. We talk about sequels. This is a bit of a combination of the two, and this is something that no one expected. This has come out of absolutely nowhere. Lightyear with Chris Evans. There's a lot of controversy around this. There's a lot of confusion around this as well. Essentially what this film is a Buzz Lightyear movie, but it's not Buzz Lightyear the toy. This is, if you look in-universe at Toy Story, the toy of Buzz Lightyear was an action figure based on a film or a franchise, and this film we're getting is essentially an in-universe movie that the toy was based on. So essentially, like, you go see the Avengers at the cinemas, you go to the toy shop and you buy a Captain America toy. Essentially, in the Toy Story universe, Andy's bought Buzz Lightyear because he's seen this Buzz Lightyear movie. And we're going to get the film. It's like a movie in a movie. This is usually something they would do on television, but we're getting like this big blockbuster Buzz Lightyear film, and Chris Evans is going to be voicing, inspired casting, Captain America himself voicing Buzz Lightyear. What are your thoughts? I can see you both just absolutely smiling ear to ear.
We were all glued to the event watching what they were announcing and stuff, and I was expecting another original or something like that. I didn't think they would announce a sequel after they just made sequel series on there, but when that title came up, Lightyear, instantly I knew what it was, and I was blown away that they would actually do it, because just thinking about the potential, the visuals, the style of what this could be, they have another franchise on their hands right here, basically. Sure. I know Pixar doesn't love making sequels, but this is something I would love to see done. Just looking at the first opening of Toy Story 2, and you see the video game that Buzz is going through, and that we're basically getting an extended movie version of that. Really dig it. I also don't mind that they took Chris Evans as the voice. Tim Allen is great, but I was saying, in Toy Story 4, I started to hear his age in the voice, and that's no fault to him. Everybody we'll get that eventually. But what they're trying to do is go for someone young, and this even happens a lot in real life. Even Tom Hanks doesn't do the voice for Woody for video games and toys. That's his brother that he outsources it to. So I mean, it's common. I can't wait for this.
Yeah.
I lost my mind. I couldn't believe it. I love the movie. What was it? Buzz Lightyear of Star Command.
Yeah, the
little animated film.
Animated thing,
And I always said to myself, I wish Disney would do something like this, but with that Pixar flavor that we know and love. And sure enough, we get that. Not only that, Chris Evans, it's Captain America, y'all. He's Buzz Lightyear. Like, that is so cool to me. And I don't mind Tim Allen because, again, we're going younger, and they even said this is like when Buzz is kind of, finding his own. And I am just sci-fi. Like, we had sci-fi with Wall-E, right?
Yeah.
This is a sci-fi superhero, just all-out action-packed Pixar movie that I never knew I wanted in this fashion. One of my favorite announcements, top 2 of the night for me.
Absolutely.
I just lost it. It was crazy.
This was the only time, I think, in the whole panel where I audibly went, "Oh, my Lord." Like, what? So Lightyear, of course, they'd said, we're doing this science fiction movie unlike anything we've ever done before. Check this out. Lightyear. I was like, oh, my God, what on earth? Toy Story is one of the first movies I saw in cinemas. I'm a kid of the 90s. This was, I think, The Lion King was the first one I saw in 94. I saw Toy Story in 95. So I've been with these characters my whole life, just as you guys have, and just seeing like, oh mate, this is so amazing. I'm not even mad that Tim Allen's not here either, because
it's understandable.
Because like you said, you buy an action figure, it's hardly ever the actual voice of the person that's in the film because of all these licensing things. The only time they've ever done Toy Story dolls with Tim Allen and Tom Hanks's voices is to tie in with the films because they've got all that bundled into their contracts and everything. But when there's not a new movie out, there's just other people doing the voice, whether it's Tom Hanks's brother or just some other voice artist. So it really does work that way, that Andy would have gone to see a Buzz Lightyear film and bought the doll and had a different voice. I mean, Patrick Warburton did the voice of Buzz Lightyear in the animated series, so Buzz Lightyear of Star Command. So
I don't even remember when Buzz Lightyear fights himself in the toy store. Is that also another Tim Allen? Is he doing the two voices, or was that someone else playing?
It was Tim Allen as well, but I think he did a different voice. Yeah. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. A lot of people are saying, they've dumped Tim Allen because he's been a bit controversial lately. We won't go too far into it, but he's been posting some crazy stuff on Twitter and stuff, and people haven't been very happy with him. And people are saying maybe they've dumped him because of that. I just think it was a creative decision. I just think it was they've gone through the motions.
Someone young sounding.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And Chris Evans, inspired choice. I think it's the best. I mean, if we're not going to get him back as Captain America on the big screen, I mean, Buzz Lightyear, that is just the second best thing, I think.
Now, let me just pitch this real quick. I know we got a lot more, but let me just pitch this. This is what I said I want to happen. In the Buzz Lightyear world, basically what they do is they're like Star Trek. They travel planet to planet. They help people, beings they're space cops and whatnot. I want them to end up on a planet that's filled with cowboys, Woody's Roundup. And that's how we get Woody, the persona, meeting Buzz Lightyear, the spaceman. I could see that happening.
That would be so
We know
good.
Woody has his own persona out there with Woody's Roundup, so I'm just throwing that out there, Pixar.
Well, I feel like Woody's Roundup, everyone probably would have thought, well, that's probably the thing they would have announced first. But I feel like a Western is so hard to sell these days.
Yeah,
and I think maybe if this takes off, maybe they'll have a double think and go, you know what, maybe we'll do a Woody's Roundup. I mean, I love Westerns. You're not a huge fan of Westerns, Chris. We discussed this previously.
Only Back to the Future 3. That's it.
But I think it would be cool. I think it would be cool if they did something like that. But anyway, that's just spitballing at the moment. I'm very excited about Lightyear. This is, again, one of my huge takeaways from this. Lucasfilm are killing it as well. Just as I'm at this point where I'm like, not feeling that much love for Star Wars anymore. You know, everything's happened with the films, and I was a little bit soured in the last movie. I felt it wasn't great. And then just the reaction you get from other fans when you cover Star Wars content, it's just like, to me, it's not worth covering Star Wars content anymore because I'm over it. But man, I'm feeling the love again. I'm feeling excited for some Star Wars stuff. They've announced 10 TV series to start with, which is pretty excessive. But we'll go through them quickly, and then we'll kind of talk about what ones we're excited about. We've got 2 series which are going to be set within the Mandalorian timeline, Rangers of the New Republic, and we've got an Ahsoka series which will star Rosario Dawson will come back as Ahsoka here. And these will, again, as I said, be in the timeline of the Mandalorian, and they'll lead to like what's called a massive crossover event. So they're trying to do the Marvel thing where they're going to tie these things. That gets me really excited. We're going to get a Cassian Andor series. We've heard about this in the past, but they're in production on this in London at the moment. They've just started that. Tony Gilroy is attached to that, who wrote the first 4 Bourne films. He directed Bourne Legacy. He was one of the many screenwriters that did Rogue One. They played a sizzle reel. Looks fantastic. They've announced a Bad Batch animated series. I don't know much about that. I don't watch the animated shows. But it's set immediately after episode 3. Fans of the animation are going to be very excited about that, I'm sure. A Lando series. They didn't announce whether we're going to have Donald Glover in it or what, but there's a Lando series coming out. There's one called Acolyte, a mystery thriller that will take viewers into a galaxy of shadowy secrets and emerging dark side powers in the final day of the High Republic era, which is about 100 years before A New Hope. Got an anime series called Star Wars Visions. We've got some animated droid show called A Droid Story. This is crazy, but the biggest one, biggest thing of all, Obi-Wan Kenobi. We know this is happening for a while. Ewan McGregor came out at D23 and said, we're doing Obi-Wan Kenobi. But this is what everyone's been waiting for. Hayden Christensen is back as Darth Vader in what has been described as the rematch of the century. And I am so excited. Oh, my Lord. I grew up with the prequels, as you guys would have. I love the prequels. They're the Star Wars movies of my childhood. I love them. Hayden Christensen, some of the, the acting, you look at the acting in episode 2 and 3, the acting's not great. I always put that down to George Lucas's direction. I always thought George Lucas isn't a great director. He's a brilliant filmmaker, brilliant producer, brilliant writer, but I always thought his direction was maybe a little bit off. He was going for the whole space opera thing. But I always loved Hayden Christensen as Anakin. I loved the whole cast. Natalie Portman was great. Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan. And now we're finally getting Hayden Christensen back. And I feel like if The Mandalorian is anything to go by, we're going to get this deep, grungy, sort of really serious, dramatic take on this character that we really want. Obi-Wan's going to go, but, so what are we all excited about? What are we all excited about? Let's talk about Obi-Wan first. Let's talk about Obi-Wan. We're on a roll here.
All right, I'll go first just because, like I said, I'm the casual Star Wars fan. That's the guy who owns a little Baby Yoda behind him. Yeah.
That's that sideshow one, isn't it? That really expensive one.
Yeah, I just couldn't resist. I had to have it. But as a casual fan who just only watches the mainstream movies and The Mandalorian, I never got into the animated series or anything like that. Things that excited me the most is the Obi-Wan show, just because that announcement of Hayden Christensen back as Darth Vader going to be fighting. Are they going to Mando him and keep him maybe in the Darth Vader suit the entire time and it's just his voice acting? Or will they actually, spend the money on the practical effects to have him all messed up or whatnot? But thing I am curious about, like from a canon point is, Obi-Wan and Darth Vader fight again, and there's another battle where there's a winner or a loser between them. I'm kind of curious to see that. So they fought 3 times technically when we thought it was always just 2 times with the lava area and then, in New Hope. But aside from that, the movies really exciting to me, especially the Patty Jenkins one. Yes. I call it Top Gun of Star Wars is what it seems like it's going for. So that could be a lot of fun with a lot of great characters and whatnot. Curious to see how, other Star Wars fans get into that. But the Taika Waititi one, I think, is the number one because the way they described it is fresh, unique, different. And as a casual fan who feels intimidated sometimes by the Star Wars content, because I liked Ahsoka Tano's presence in The Mandalorian, but I felt like I was missing something because I never watched the Clone Wars or all these other shows to really be enthralled with the character. So whatever Taika Waititi's doing seems like it's fit for casual fans to just jump in and have some fun in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah. Just that logo we got with Taika's movie announcement. Seeing
it's
that
like
Star Wars with the colors.
Yeah,
man. Seriously, it's like because he brought that style and flavor to Ragnarok. Kind of a rejuvenation there. Is he going to bring that to Star Wars? I thought the Patty Jenkins announcement was kind of almost like that Hayden Christensen out of nowhere, so random, but it was so great to hear. She deserves it. She's amazing. Dave, you got to interview her.
I did.
I know she's amazing.
I did. She's incredible.
And then something like an Acolyte. Obviously, Hayden Christensen blew me away. One of my favorite announcements. I just, with you guys, grew up with the prequels. I think that third movie is genuinely one of the better Star Wars films. But Acolyte, man, this is cool. This is really cool. And this could be one of the darkest Star Wars things we've ever seen on screen, big or small. Because if we're dealing with the rise to power from the dark side in the final days of the High Republic era, that is a very important era of Star Wars that we've only ever seen in flashbacks in the animated series and then novelizations. To see that on the small screen, I think is going to be super cool. And I'm interested to see what talent is associated with that. Just that lightsaber cutting through the logo there gives me a good idea of what that's going to be. And people are wondering, like, we need more lightsaber battles. We're going to get that with Ahsoka. But I think we're really going to get it with Acolyte, and I can't wait for that.
Oh, it's very exciting. Now, I brushed over the movies. You guys mentioned them. I'm so excited about Hayden Christensen. But yeah, there's these two upcoming films, which is Rogue Squadron, which Patty Jenkins is doing. And Taika Waititi's doing some weird. We don't really know much about it, but that logo you said, it reminded me of something from like Mad Magazine or something.
All you need to know from that logo, right?
It's just like, it's just going to be just wild and wacky, and just I'm so excited about really a very vast majority of this. The only things that I could give or take is probably a droid story and maybe the Bad Batch, because I'm not into like the animated stuff, but everything else there just gets me really excited. Lucasfilm did mention two other projects that they're working on: a Willow sequel series, which he's going to star Warwick Davis as well, who's a great guy. I love his stuff.
I only know him as the Leprechaun.
Yes,
but I love him as the Leprechaun.
Yeah, he's great. He's fantastic. And it's going to be showrun by John M. Chu, who did Crazy Rich Asians, G.I. Joe Retaliation. I'm not huge on Willow. Was not a film I kind of maybe watched it once, maybe twice. It's one of those just very kind of 80s fantasy, low budget kind of things. It's a bit of fun. Maybe I'll revisit it. I'm sure I will revisit before the film. It's one of those cult classic things, really. And they're talking about Indiana Jones 5 again, which keeps getting pushed and pushed and pushed.
Nothing really new on that, though.
No, well, they officially announced James Mangold as director.
Yeah,
They've sort of been talking about that. But as far as anything else, it's like... this is a movie that I feel like, we get these big announcements and stuff, and occasionally things don't happen. Marvel announced Inhumans and whatever else. Schedules get changed, pandemics happen, movies, directors drop out, stars pass away, or, whatever. Harrison Ford's getting a little older. I'm not saying he's going to die or anything, but I'm just saying he's getting older to play.
It's a possibility,
It's a possibility that anything could happen. I feel like this is that one. If you're going to pick anything out of everything that's been announced, I feel like this is that one that's kind of in jeopardy. There's got to be a reason Steven Spielberg stepped away from it as well, too, because he was originally attached. I just don't have a great feeling about Indiana Jones 5. They are calling it the conclusion or the final Indiana Jones film, which is the music to my ears, because I did not like the last one.
Yeah, I want a better finale too.
Yeah. So hopefully it happens. I'm interested to see it. Hopefully they pull it off. Hopefully it's okay. But that's the one that I kind of feel like I don't know what's going to happen there. I agree. Let's move on to Marvel. Okay, we're pushing it for time, so we'll go through the Marvel stuff here. So it wasn't I was going to say it wasn't a lot of huge stuff, but a lot of the stuff was just kind of more like announcements or confirmations of things that we knew before.
Yeah.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier, WandaVision, Loki, we got trailers for that. One big takeaway from that was Owen Wilson in Loki, which looks very cool. Wow. Ms. Marvel, rather. They've officially announced Iman Vellani in the cast of that. She's the young girl. She's been plucked out of nowhere, has been cast. I think she looks fantastic. She seems very excited and very happy to be in it, and that's what you want. Captain Marvel 2, they're saying that Iman Vellani will be starring in that as well as Ms. Marvel, so there's that crossover you're going to get.
That is so awesome.
And Teyonah Parris, who is playing Monica Rambeau in WandaVision, the older, because she was the young girl in the first Captain Marvel, now she's going to be the adult version in WandaVision. She's then going to be in Captain Marvel 2, so we're starting to see how it's all piecing together here. Haley Steinfeld has been confirmed as Kate Bishop. I saw
Chris looks awesome in the set photos.
Amazing. She's terrific. She's an incredible actor, and she just looks the part. This is the one we've all been excited for, and as you said, set photos just looks absolutely terrific. I'm so excited to see that. She-Hulk, Tatiana Maslany has been confirmed. There was rumors about it a while ago. Then she came out and was like, no, there's no truth to that. I don't know where this has come from. Now it's been confirmed. It's also
protecting her position.
Yes, exactly. Mark Ruffalo will be back as the Hulk for the series, which is good. The big news, the big announcements here is 2 new series. Ironheart, which will focus on Riri Williams, who's the younger girl who takes on the Ironheart, sort of essentially takes over after Iron Man, becomes the Ironheart. There's going to be an Armor Wars series with Don Cheadle as War Machine, Rhodey, which is going to be so cool. That's a really cool... I haven't read a lot of the comics, but the Armor Wars arc is just like absolutely spot on, amazing. And Secret Invasion, Sam Jackson... Nick Fury's back. Ben Mendelsohn is back as Talos, which is, I feel like, a lot of people have been thinking that this is going to be the, that next overarching thing of the MCU, but I feel like we're going the way of the multiverse. Are we going to have like this big event series? Disney Plus thing's going to try and emulate that kind of thing, and that's going to be the big Disney Plus thing we're going to work towards. Secret Invasion. I'm moving really quick here, but I will give you a chance to chip in a second. Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. James Gunn said he was, as a child, he loved the Star Wars holiday special. Awesome. He's been bugging Feige, give me a Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. It's finally happening for Disney+. I Am Groot. They're giving him like a short series. Don't know if it's going to be animated or whatever, but that's going to be interesting. Ant-Man and the Wasp 3 has finally been confirmed as Quantumania. Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly are back. Michael Douglas, Michelle Pfeiffer are back. New actress has been cast for Cassie Lang, Catherine Newton. And we're going to get Jonathan Majors in there as Kang the Conqueror as well. Christian Bale has been officially announced as Gore the God Butcher for Thor Love and Thunder, and Jamie Alexander will return as Sif, finally. I've been waiting. When's she coming back? And she's finally back. And the big one, 2 of the big ones, Black Panther 2, they're not going to recast Chadwick Boseman, so they're not going to bring T'Challa back in. Very surprised. They're going to honor his legacy. They pushed the movie back a little bit, and they're going to... Who knows what they're going to do with that? I can't even speculate on it at the moment. It's kind of like it could go any direction. And Fantastic Four is finally announced with John Watts, as we touched on before. Has done the Spider-Man films. He's on Fantastic Four. Okay, guys, what are you most excited about out of this? There's a lot to unpack. Just go wild.
I'm just gonna go with the. I won't go through the entire list. So off the trailers here, really awesome trailers. WandaVision stuff looked good. Can't wait to watch that in January. I'm loving the look of the Falcon and Winter Soldier show. There was even like a tweet that came out that I'm like, I kind of agree with that. Is people make fun of the way the Marvel movies look kind of bland, or the cinematography isn't that great, but the style and choice of Falcon and Winter Soldier was awesome. And they were just showing off the amount of money they put in the show with elongated shot of Falcon flying through the canyon, avoiding those missiles. I'm really excited to see how that turns out and where that goes. But the Loki trailer is the one that actually got me the most surprised, and now that hyped me up the most, where it's like almost Loki's the Forrest Gump of the MCU, where he's B.D. Cooper, he's all in all these other events, and Owen Wilson, he looks fantastic. And just like that short little time in that elevator, I'm like, I want this character so bad. So that Loki TV series looks awesome. I also love the way he looked in the suit at the very end, pulled from the comics. That was awesome. The fact that they're bringing Miss Marvel into Captain Marvel 2, they're sticking to their word of transitioning over. It's not like the Netflix Daredevil thing where they're like, they're in the same universe, but movies ain't really going to talk about them or do anything there. Now they're like, no, they're pulling them over, so you kind of have to watch these shows. So they're not going to waste any time then with like sticking to an origin story. It'll probably be like a 1-second line in Captain Marvel 2 where they explain where Miss Marvel comes from. It's like, if you didn't watch the Disney Plus show, then I'm sorry. All these announcements though for all these other younger Avengers coming in, I'm like, they're building up to a young Avenger movie. They have so many teenage characters building up with Kate Bishop, Haley Steinfeld, and them replacing the girl from Endgame, that Casey Lang, with Catherine Newton. That I feel bad for the actress, but I understand because they're obviously trying to make her a superhero. And I just recently saw her in the movie Freaky. She was fantastic in it. And I guess I was surprised with the Chadwick Boseman not being a recast, because I thought maybe they would want to continue, because they had big plans for T'Challa in the MCU. He was supposed to be one of the top tier moving forward. So now I'm curious to what Black Panther 2 is going to be about, because I'm like, whoa, what are they going to do now? But aside from that, the Fantastic Four announcement with John Watts, I gotta admit, when I saw his name pop up, I kind of went, I would have rather maybe a different director, someone fresh, someone new step in. but I liked Homecoming. I loved Far From Home, and if they're giving it to him, that's great. The only thing I say is this whole time he's been a Sony employee. His checks have been signed by Sony. He was taking orders by Sony. Now he's 100% fully under Marvel control with that collaboration. So I think now we're going to see what John Watts can really do with some superheroes. Okay, that's the stuff that excited me.
Yeah.
Yeah, going off the John Watts point, I'm with you. You know, Fantastic Four was my favorite announcement of the night. Just the logo and the fact that it's coming got me excited. I was freaking out. But John Watts, I feel like he's one of those directors that is like a good director for a studio to have. I feel like he's just, okay, you're going to give me this. I'm going to implement it, combine both studios. It's a hard thing to do. He plays ball, man. Exactly. That's exactly what he does. And I feel like Feige's got some ideas. Everyone involved, they have ideas. They know what they want for Fantastic Four. Hopefully, you know, Krasinski comes in and gives them some ideas.
Oh, yes,
See, that's what I was hoping for. We didn't get. But that got me excited. The Secret Invasion one, I flipped out because there are two very big events happening right now in the MCU, and both are going to lead to massive things. This could be the Disney Plus thing. We have the multiverse in the movie space, and now Secret Invasion, which is a massive storyline in the comics, one I've always wanted to see. It looks like it's coming to fruition. And if Nick Fury was going to have any show, which we got rumor of a little bit back, this is the show I want him to be the head of, because, man, Secret Invasion is just going to combine everything we love about the Marvel Universe. And all of these other announcements, from a Hawkeye to an Ironheart, which looks great, Armor Wars, it all just...
Oh, yeah, Armor Wars.
I feel like they know... Armor Wars, man. I mean, that...
Don Cheadle deserves it.
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. War Machine, where is he going to be? You know, where is he going to pop up? And there's not a big opportunity for him in the movies. This is his series. Now, we finally get to see something I think we've been lacking in the MCU. War Machine at the forefront, giving us everything he's got, man. And this is going to rock. And then you look at the trailers that we got. I'm with Chris. I think the Loki trailer rocked it, completely surprised me. The look of Falcon and the Winter Soldier is incredible. It's the closest thing, maybe even closer than Black Widow to Winter Soldier, that I've seen from Marvel, just from the trailer. And guys, WandaVision's coming out in a month. I mean, this is going to kind of set the tone for the future of the MCU. And I'm interested to see, once these shows and movies start rolling out, how often we're getting content at that point, right? Because right now it's been The Mandalorian and then some random movies here and there. But once we start rolling out with this Star Wars, Marvel, Disney, it's going to be one after another. Pixar episode this week, Marvel episode this week, Star Wars episode.
Oh, for sure.
And
it's
going to be, especially if we cover these individually, it's going to be exhausting for us, along with all the other stuff that we're doing. But what a time to be a fan, especially of Marvel, man. This slate, what a time to be a fan of Marvel. And this was all without Spider-Man news.
Oh, yeah. Exactly right. Yeah. Well, they couldn't because of Sony, but they've just gone, you know what?
Yeah.
There's Spider-Man stuff. Look at what we got. Look what I got in my back pocket, Kevin Feige. I don't know. I was at this point, and I think a lot of people are like this. At the end of Avengers Endgame, you're like, where do we go from here? I mean, this is the big culmination we've been waiting for 10, 11 years. Where do we go from here? I don't know if I can get this excited again for Marvel. Look at this. This is insane. And we've got all these big storylines. You've got the multiverse. You've got the Secret Wars. You've got, Secret Invasion. You've got Armor Wars, which has kind of been brushed under the rug, but that's a big arc as well in the comics. That's a big monumental arc. We've got so much
Abomination coming back.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I knew I missed something. Tim Roth is back. Oh, my Lord. So everything's happening. Everything's tying together. And even if we're talking about Spider-Man 3, if we're opening up the multiverse and all of these other Marvel movies that have been made over the last 40-odd years or whatever are now becoming canon as well. I mean, what kind of possibilities do we know? Like Hugh Jackman, I mean, coming in as Wolverine. You know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen at some point, even if it's just a quick, like in a Deadpool movie or something pops in. I mean, even just to know that in some way that Hugh Jackman Wolverine can be considered canon, even if it's in a multiverse. It's just like, man, what a time to be alive.
It's smart for Disney because they own the rights to those DVD sales and whatnot. So they're like, how do we push these sales without really, doing something with these characters? But the only thing I think about when I see this entire list, in 5 years or in 10 years, when I have a child or whatnot, how am I going to start showing them the MCU? Because you thought it was complicated to show them 20 movies in a row. Now you have to remember what series came in between each movie and what event and what episode. And it's like, oh, little Johnny, you're going to have a hard time here.
You've got 5 other Spider-Man movies and all the X-Men movies, depending what they do. I mean, you're going to be, it's going to be insane. I mean, it's hard. It's been easy for us. We go along. I mean, cinema hasn't had a long existence before now. Really, when you think about it, it's 110, 115 years old or whatever. So the movies that I've had to grow up with in the last 30 years is like, been fairly easy to catch up on everything. But I always think, when I have a kid, it's going to be crazy. All these movies that they're going to have in that backlog, it's just like, I don't know, this insane. And as you said, it is, it's just mind-blowing. It's exhausting. It is, I just feel overloaded at the moment, and just the amount of stuff we're going to have to consume and cover and everything. But it's so exciting. What a time to be alive as movie fans. And I think we've covered all the big stuff from this week alone. 1 week worth of movie news. Right? And I've been, I as I said at the top of the show, I couldn't have thought of anyone else better to help me cover this. This has been absolutely wonderful today. We've gone through some very exciting things. Just 3 guys just geeking out over movies, and I love it. And it's been great to finally
collaborate.
This was
entertaining. Thank you, Dave, for having us on, man.
Absolute
This is really
pleasure.
a blast.
Thank you so much for joining me. It's been, like I said, been wanting to collaborate with you guys for so long. We've we have, myself and Austin, I had you do a little voiceover for my Evolution. I've done another podcast with Chris, but it just really, something like this, it's been really awesome. And at that, there we go. It's the end of the show. Thank you so much for joining me once again to Austin and Chris. That is all we have time for today. The podcast goes out every single Monday on all podcasting platforms, including Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon Music, and Audible. The visual element goes up on YouTube as well, and that goes out 2 days earlier to Patreon supporters. Patreon.com/Dave Lee Down Under if you'd like to support the Dave Lee Down Under brand. You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff, all linked down the bottom. If you want to write into the show, shoot an email to daveleepod@gmail.com. Leave a good review. We want good reviews on the podcasting platforms if you can do so. Again, Austin and Chris, please let everyone know where they can find you.
You guys can find me at youtube.com/3cfilms or on Twitter at 3cfilmreview. Really excited to see what else you have next for your evolutions. I get a real kick out of watching those, and thanks for having me on, Dave.
Yeah, youtube.com, Austin Burke. I'm on Letterboxd, Twitter, Instagram, at The Burkinator. Dave, like I said, man, I love your channel. I love what you're doing. Love to see you growing. 3C, as always, my friend, it's a pleasure. And it's just 3 guys having fun, freaking out, talking some of the best news of the year, man. This was awesome.
Absolutely. We have to do it again because this has been awesome. And thank you again so much for joining me. It's just been terrific. I love both of you guys. Your content is just amazing. I watch all your stuff all the time, and I love it. Thank you so much. You get some of my favorites in the movie scene at the moment, which is just amazing. And as far as my content for this week, I don't know. I'm trying to pull my next evolution together. I announced it's going to be The Grinch, which is like another one of my short ones. I don't know when I'm going to get that out because there's just been so much in the way. But other than that, thanks to everybody out there for listening, and thanks to you guys for joining me. I'll see you next week. Take it easy. Thanks, guys.